Yaakov Langer here. I could not have imagined the experience and connections I'd make from meaningful people. These past 2 years have a few of my favorite moments in my life, and for that, I'm extremely grateful. I don't talk about this much, not publicly and not even privately, but I thought this is important to share. For the first 5 years of my marriage, or our marriage, my wife and I struggled to have a baby. It was a very difficult time. It was so hard to not know the future. Then this podcast came along. It's been a lifesaver for me, and I couldn't have imagined how much joy and inspiration it would have been in my life personally. I've loved every single aspect of the show, hosting it, creating it, editing it, researching guests, even making graphics. This has been a dream come true, and that alone makes me so proud. Everyone loves a good drama story, and this isn't that. I only have respect and love for Nachi, and I'm sure I'll do a good job with meaningful people. We, Baruch Hashem, each are working on so many incredible projects, and we always knew that a day would come where our projects required more of each of our times. Baruch Hashem, this is a logistics thing. Speaking to some of the most incredible people has been an honor for me. I'm excited for the next chapter in my life. I genuinely feel it's what my mission in life is, and I want to thank you, all of you. If there was ever a moment that you enjoyed, maybe a small joke I made, a guest you didn't anticipate and really enjoyed, or maybe a question I asked, thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you for believing in us, in me, and all the people we've spoken to. I just want to finish off with one idea. A question I love asking is, what's the worst advice you've ever received? Well, I'll tell you the worst advice I've ever received. Do what everyone else is doing because that makes sense. While that is good advice many times in people's lives, it doesn't always work, at least not for me. Sitting in an office all day looking at numbers isn't my future, and it's scary to think. For a few years I thought it was. No one but Hashem knows your future. Every single guest we had this one idea in common, that they followed the path that was truly for them. I'm Yaakov Langer, and remember, you are a meaningful people. Welcome to the Meaningful People Podcast, the podcast where we talk to people who are
meaningful.
Yeah, that sounds good.
We have the great honor to be sitting here with Rabbi Pinchos, Pinny, if you're his friend, Lipschutz.
I think we'll stick with Rabbi Lipschutz for us.
Yeah, that works.
Maybe we'll become friends.
Okay.
Maybe we'll end up calling you Reb Pinny.
That's fair.
But we appreciate you making the trip from Lakewood Eritrea all the way here to the Five Towns to do this interview.
So we're looking at you, and for those listening who don't see it, but you're wearing an up hat, but you're Litvish, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You love starting with those.
Litvish. What
are you Litvish? Are you?
I
what's
am
your background?
100% Litvak. There's
100%
not too many
Litvak,
people like
but
me
the top
out
of your
there.
head is not so Litvish.
The top of my head is very Litvish, and if you want to start with a good story,
Yeah.
4 years ago, I wasn't feeling well, and I went to a couple doctors. I don't know if you can hear my voice, but I have very bad allergies. So there's carpet in here, so I'm stuffed.
Oh man.
It's not.
How do we know we
it's
would have
fine.
ripped it out? Would have done hardwood.
So, but it was getting worse, and I had trouble getting through the day, and I was going from one doctor to the next, and finally my wife got the name of a doctor, Dr. Kennedy in Philadelphia. He's a nose doctor, the ENT, but like from the top doctors, the two top doctors, and every Jew goes to the top doctor. He's a top doctor on the East Coast. And I went to him for sinus, and he looks at me and he says, I don't know, we're going to have to send you in the other room. We're going to take a picture of your nose and see what's going out there. And it comes back in and he says, I have bad news. You see this? This is the way the nose should be. And this is the way, there was a big black splotch. And then he did other tests. And I had loya lechem, loya leno, not anyone should know from it, but I had a tumor this big.
Right.
It was from my eye to my teeth, and it went through the nose. And it must have been there for a long time. He said, it's very aggressive. We got to get it out. No time for a biopsy or anything. And I said, well, I have to go to a rabbi to get the blessing before we do it. And he said, we don't really have time for that, but it was before Shavuos. I went to Eretz Yisrael. I was planning to go. And I don't know how much time we have here, so I'll tell you the part that's, as we say, like when they get to the hat.
Sure.
So I went to Reb Chaim Kanevsky, and I said that I have the Gidul, and I want a bracha. And he looks at me, smiled. He pushed up the brim of my hat. And he said, if you go like this, everything will be fine. And I walked out there with my brim up. And I said, if everything goes fine, then I'm going to go like that always. And Baruch Hashem, there was a nest, and it was fine.
Wow.
And that's how I go.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So every day when I put on the hat, more than once a day, I remember the nest, and I thank Hashem again.
Do a lot of people know that story?
Now they will.
No, because like
anybody that
people,
asks me, they
yeah.
think like I'm stuck up. Like, why are you wearing that hat? So if they ask in a nice way, I tell them the story. It's an amazing story, and it's true, and it happened with me. It's not a story that someone made up and told me.
This is stuff we always hear. Reb Chaim tells us to a lot of people to wear their brim up. Like,
So
why is that?
I don't know
Like he
why
says,
it
don't wear a
is.
watch, don't put your brim up, grow a beard.
I
What was
was
your name,
under-
Shira? And he asked you to change
No,
it?
my name's
okay.
not Shira.
Okay. Not anymore. Okay.
And when he said it to me, I was like in a state of shock because you should never know for such a thing. But when a doctor tells you that,
Yeah.
you know, and then you come to Reb Chaim and he smiles and puts out the bill, he says, so it's alt sein beseder. And I said, das ist die ganze Sache. That's the whole thing. And Yankee, his grandson, pushed me away. He says, my grandfather just gave you back your life. Like,
Wow.
what are you asking for more? Like,
So did you feel when the Reb Chaim told you that? Did you feel
Relieved?
like I'm good now, or you were still a little bit on edge? You could be honest.
No, I was relieved. I was mamish like on cloud 9. But there's more to the story. If you want to hear the rest of the story is you could edit it out afterwards.
Your wife's
If I
motioning
go
from the
too long.
side.
I was very relieved.
Okay.
And after the surgery, the doctor, now I want this to be, well, it's funny to say I want this to be about me because it is, but
Yeah, this whole episode is totally about you.
So the surgery was supposed to be 2.5 hours, and it was 5 hours or 5.5 hours. And after I came out of surgery, so, you know, they take you out and you're laying there and you don't know where you are. And my wife is crying and the doctor's like, he says, you're a very lucky man. I said, what happened? He says, well, this thing was much larger. He's operating for 30 years. He never saw such a large thing. And the whole thing I'm not going to tell you. And he said, and I was smiling. He says, why are you smiling? Do you realize what just happened? I said, yeah, but the rabbi told me this was going to happen. So I've been smiling for 2 weeks already.
Wow.
That was the story.
So could you take us back to, you know, where you're from and then I guess leading up to the point where you had a life-changing conversation with another gadol. So could you take us from the beginning until that point? Around, like where you're from?
So, but my brother was 10 years old. Someone asked him where he's from. You said about being a Litvak. And he said, I'm from Kovna. Kovna is the capital of Lithuania. That's where my father's family comes from, Kovna. So I'm from Kovna. We never left.
Were you ever there?
I was there once.
Oh, you're there once. Okay.
Lakewood, Kovna, I guess. You know.
No, I was born in Muncie. I lived in Muncie for most of my life. And I moved to Lakewood 3 years ago.
Wow. And you lived in Eretz Yisrael at a certain
I
point?
lived in Eretz Yisrael. My mother was nifter when I was 21 years old. I wanted to go learn in Brisk. Then it wasn't like now. It wasn't like the thing to do. But I always had that I wanted to go there. And I couldn't go because she was sick. And then she passed away and I was the oldest. So I went to Brisk when I was 23 years old.
Was that normal back then,
It
age-wise, or?
No. If you went to Brisk, you were 20 or 21.
Ah, okay.
So I went first to Lakewood and then to Brisk. I did it backwards. And when I was there, that's when I met my wife, and I got married in Eretz Yisrael, and we lived there for 4 years. And then
You're from
back.
Eretz Yisrael? Yeah. Oh, she's from America. But
Very nice.
you were in Eretz Yisrael.
You lived there for how many years?
I lived there for 4 years.
4 years. Okay. And then at that point, were you thinking of starting the Yated?
No, it was the furthest thing from my mind. I didn't have any money, and I came back to America. I couldn't get on HUD in Lakewood, and so I couldn't afford to rent. So I went to my father's. My father has a legal 2-family house in Muncie. So we lived in the basement. He used to rent out the apartment, and nobody was there then. So we moved into that apartment, and we lived there for a few months. And whatever, I ended up becoming a fundraiser, and then the paper fell into my lap a couple of years later.
How'd that happen?
It took too long with the Reb Chaim story, so...
No, we have time. We've got time. Unless it's going to be like 7 hours.
No, it's one of those things that when it happened, you didn't realize it was happening, and it happened, and
Give us a
it
taste.
started with,
Yeah.
it was nothing, and it grew and grew and grew into what it is
So
today.
someone started it and you took it over?
I started it.
You started it?
Yeah.
And why did you start it? Was there a mission?
The Rav Shach wanted there to be an English language newspaper in America.
And you were close with Rav Shach.
And I had a relationship with Rav Shach, but I wasn't especially close with him.
Were you a journalist? Like
I
what?
was not a journalist. I was
I
I was young. I was 28 years old, and Rav Shach was the Gadol Hador, and he thought it was a good idea, and it was a good idea, and Hashem wanted me to be running it, what should I say, and that it started with nothing, and it grew.
Did you want to do it, or did you feel
I
like
had no
responsible?
idea what it was going to be, but I did want to do it because there was a need for it.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, what did the From publication world look
The
like?
film publication world was the Jewish Press and the Allgemeine Journal.
So okay.
So people like me really had no home. We didn't have our own paper.
Like
We
what?
didn't
Around
have,
what year is this?
1987, probably.
The late 80s. Okay.
Yeah. And there was nothing as sort. Nobody gave it any chance of success. It was like, how are you going to, I don't want to disparage anyone, but how are you going to make it? There's no need for you. There's no room for you. There's like the Jewish press was like everywhere. Like, how are you going to stand up to them? It's never going to happen. It's never going to work.
Because was it more?
And the more I heard it, the more I was determined to show that it is going to work, and it's going to be
Defiance.
real, and it's going to be a real, good, intelligent, Toyudic paper.
So what were those early days like? I grew up in a home of a publisher, and I remember growing up when my father started his newspaper, and it was tough. It was tough. You're public. You're a public figure, and you're putting out opinions and pieces. And
it started. I was very, very small, so it was tough because then I had a different job.
okay,
But then I had to make a choice: is the job or the paper? And I chose the paper.
What were you doing?
I was raising money. I was a fundraiser for Lakewood Yeshiva, for Torah Masorah, and then for Philadelphia Yeshiva.
Oh wow. Well, Lakewood finally got you back. Okay.
Yeah. And I was very poor. I had no money, nothing. My wife worked, and she was a secretary in Rabbi Wine's Yeshiva, and she started teaching Diktuk in Beis Yaakov. And that's basically what we lived on. We were very poor, and we were poor for a long time.
So what were, I guess, like some of those stories, I guess, in the beginning of the Yated starting that you think back to, which were, I guess, iconic moments in the beginning of the paper and how it began to grow?
I can't think of any iconic moments. It was like, it wasn't like a spurt of growth. It just happened. Like
Was there a story or a specific piece that the Yated reported on?
No.
That was
No.
What about for you?
It
Was
just
there a
gained acceptance
Was there a
as
moment
time
for
went
you
on.
when you're like, okay, this is a legitimate publication? Because in the beginning, some people are reading it.
I never looked at it like that. I just looked at this is my mission now, and I'm gonna make this work. The B'nai Torah, the Amma Torah, the what you call yeshivish people need to have a voice. We have something to say. We need someone to defend us. We need someone to say what we're thinking. We need a place where we belong. And I was just determined to make it happen.
As opposed to the non-Jews or opposed to the non-religious?
As opposed to anything.
Just an
We didn't-
outlet that people could
An
hear
outlet that
Torah
people
go.
could identify with. Now, like you take it for granted that there's so many from
There's
publications.
so many choices, right.
But then there's really no choice.
Right.
And this is before even Mishpacha or Ami existed.
Yeah.
So it's a long time ago.
Yeah,
It's a long time
it is
ago. Like
long.
you weren't born yet.
So
it's not.
So what were the, once you're started getting up and running, like what were there challenges coming your way? Were there people saying like, hey, what you're putting out, that's not the right thing to say? Or
There were many challenges, but nobody ever said that what you're putting out is not the right thing. There were some things that were there that people didn't agree with. There was, it was like Rav Shach's opinion. And if you didn't agree with Rav Shach, then you didn't like the Yated, because it was really based on Rav Shach's philosophy, Rav Shach's shittas, and that's what it was about. But the people who were reading it appreciated it. The people who weren't reading it developed a stereotype of what it is. It's anti-this, it's anti-that, it's not like this, not like that. So I had to overcome those stereotypes, which even today they have stereotypes. The Yated is this, the Yated is that. No, the Yated is not this, it's not that. I'm a regular normal guy. We're regular normal people.
What is it? Like, why don't you just speak to the people and say what you define the Yated and what it isn't, Right, you're speaking very like vague terms, but say what it is.
I'm not speaking in vague terms. The Yated is, you open it up, you see what it is. It's an intelligent platform for news, for Torah, for hashkafa, for anything that a frum Jew would be interested in finding in a newspaper. You find it in Yated.
Could we get into the name? Who came up with that name, the Yated? Because it has nothing to do with the Israel Yated?
It has nothing to do with Israel Yated, but at that time, there were things going on in the Jewish world, and Rav Shach and the Stipler felt that there should be a frum newspaper in Israel which expressed their opinion. So they started the Yated, and the Stipler gave it that name.
Really?
Yeah.
But he didn't. I'm sure he knew about the other Yated going on.
No, he gave the Israeli Yated, the Israeli Hebrew Yated.
Oh, he gave the.
He gave the first Yated, the Israeli Hebrew
he gave the
Yated,
original name.
He gave it that name.
Okay, now
So when
version.
Rav Shach said that he would like it to be an English newspaper, I said I'm going to use the same name. Because if it's good enough for you, then it's good enough for me. I was young and basically naive, but
The Stipler did not file a lawsuit, thank God.
no.
Do you look back? Was that a mistake? Because it could be a little confusing. Or no, that's what you wanted.
I'd rather not go there.
Okay.
Yeah.
When Rothman didn't want to go down the P. Diddy road either, so we're used to some things like that. Okay.
No, it's not for the reasons that you think.
Right, you're saying it's not as interesting.
It's just, no, it's like, it is what it is.
Right.
It's
I
called
wanna ask-
Yated, and they called Yated, and everything is fine. And should it have been called something else in retrospect? Yes.
Okay. I want to ask you about, I guess, journalism in the frum world, how it sort of has progressed or not progressed over the last 40-some years. What are some, I guess, key differences to the way stories used to break and now how they break? And
So I'm a weekly newspaper. I'm not breaking stories.
right.
So journalism, it's a whole new world. It's a whole new thing. Blogs and Matzav and Vosisnayis and Yeshiva world. This is not something that was around 40 years ago. Anybody could have predicted happening. But from journalism has progressed that now we have from journalists. We have people that are intelligent, that are trained, that are knowledgeable, and they write and express thoughts in an intelligent way.
And that didn't used to really exist so much.
Not from our type of people, no.
Is there, like, it's probably very daunting to every single week come up with something else to write about or talk about. That's what I would think, or is it the
Yes.
reverse?
No,
There's just too
no.
much to talk about, and it's so hard to choose.
There's a lot to talk about, and it is hard to choose, but to come up with something to talk about every week on a consistent basis and do it in a Torah-dicker way, it's a challenge.
So how does your brain work? Do you like just the whole day sponging up ideas, and then you're like, oh, that could be a piece?
No.
So how so how does it work? How does it work?
So
Take us
I
through it.
learned the parsha. I learned the next week's parsha, and I like to learn Rashi and the Ramban and other Mefarshim, and then I look in contemporary Sfarim. and I sort of develop an idea from the parasha, and I try and relate it to current events or to us, like things that we could improve, every person could improve. And people are always looking for chizuk. Everybody needs chizuk, even people who smile all the time. But everybody has an aspect of them that needs chizuk. So I try and give chizuk every week.
Wow. So Nachi was kind of mentioning this before. He kind of mentioned like in the beginning, and maybe if we like transform the question to like throughout everything, you've been doing this now for over 30 years.
Right.
Like, is there maybe a story that you broke or a certain drasha that you wrote about that sticks out to you that you're the most proud about?
Like, well, yeah, what's the most popular issue of Yated?
Yeah.
That
So-
was like that if you had to hang up one issue on your wall in your house, which one would it be?
I think every week the fact that
So
the
you have
paper
a wall that's
comes
this
out,
big, and you got to put one.
That's why you moved to Lakewood.
right?
to
So
get
I
to your
don't
home.
have any. I don't have any
There's
because
not one issue.
every week that the paper comes out is a miracle. It's mamish Yad Hashem. We see Yad Hashem and Siyata D'Shmai every week.
That's the
and
baseline.
every week is a challenge to come up with it and to
100%.
do it without mistakes.
But there's
and
got to be a
without-
time that you think
You
that
think-
you're doing this for over 30 years. There's got to be
when we
one.
just asked that, there was one issue that stuck out in your head, like this. Oh, that.
So
one.
if you would have, you would say Rubashkin.
okay,
Okay.
What
Because
about it?
Rubashkin
Let's get into that.
was
when he was let out.
when he was let out.
Okay,
Because people have credited you to be one of the leading forces to Rabashkin getting out.
I guess.
You guess.
I mean, you're supposed to say no. it
Right.
wasn't
No,
me,
no,
it
this is
was-
an honest.
I was only
So-
one.
so-
But it was not only me, and there were other
No,
people.
no, there's
but,
there's others involved for sure, but
Right.
but
you want to take us through
But that was the Yated campaign where the Yated stuck its neck out for
Why?
this
Why?
person. The reason I did it originally,
Yeah.
I didn't know him. I read a lot. I read all about the story, and I read the New York Times every day, and I read it in the Times, and it was in the AP, and they all had it. And I read a book about Postville, and they painted him like an awful person. And I went there, and I didn't meet him, but I saw the plant. I saw his house. I spoke to the workers there, and I saw that everything that I read was a lie.
it's so not like
And
the
it
New
was-
York Times to like be false. I'm kidding. I'm making a joke. Yeah, yeah,
It happens to be
yeah.
that now it sounds silly, the New York Times, but in those days, the New York Times was a newspaper of record. And if the
Yeah, they
New
did
York
show their
Times said
colors, yeah.
something,
Right.
then that's what it was. It was fact. It was before Trump came on the scene and opened everyone's eyes to fake news. People used to think that was in the Times was real, and it was. So there was,
To an extent,
To the
because if
extent.
Rabashkin,
to an extent, but it was an intelligent newspaper. It covered an issue from really very often it was both sides. They had their slant, they had their angle, but you were able to pick up the other side also when you read it. Now that's totally non-existent.
so you
So,
went there, you saw.
I went there. I saw the plant. The plant was a gorgeous plant. It was like clean and neat, and the workers were happy. And the Times was writing that they didn't pay for their uniforms. They didn't have a cafeteria. I saw the cafeteria. I was in there. I asked them how much the uniforms cost. They said they didn't. Why are you asking these questions? So I saw it was a lie, and it was a terrible chil Hashem. So my first impetus to do it was to clean up that chil Hashem and to say it's not true. The guy is not what they make him out to be. He's not doing that, and that's not what's going on. That's what started me. And then the more I got involved in it, and the more I read about it, and then I got to know him, speaking with him on the phone, I was like sucked into this thing. Like, how could such a thing be happening in the United States of America? How could this be going on?
Wow.
And then what happened? What did you start doing?
I started writing about it every week. And then Debbie Myman, she's a writer from Muncie. She's very good. She's very intelligent. She's really thorough, and it became her project. And every week she wrote something. We spoke to lawyers to analyze the case from all angles, and just one thing led to another, and people began to see the injustice, and then other places picked it up. Then we started raising money for him. We held rallies. You had in the 5 towns also.
The White Shul, I remember that.
Yeah.
We had spoken to Shalom Mordechai, and he told us his side of the story, how there were moments where there was just like no chance, and he was on the inside, but for someone who was on the outside, sort of advocating on his behalf, throughout the years, do you feel like there were moments that you guys were so close, and then things just stopped? And
Anytime we felt that we were having a success, like in a case, and boom, like the next week it was over. It was like
that must have been very
was-
deflating.
It wasn't deflating because we were with Hashem. We weren't taking our power from people. We were doing our mission as good Jews. We were Jews. It was Satmar people and Shivisha people, and we were working together to help this person. So if it didn't go good, it didn't go good. But we pick ourselves up and we go on. We don't get broken. We never were deterred.
Yeah, you're saying like key fundamentals and the ideas of, I guess, Amuna and Bitachon, and
Yeah.
we did some research on you, and we know that is a very big focal point in your life,
Yeah.
like any Jew should be, but you in particular, what, yeah. Sorry.
That's just the way I was brought up, and all through my life, Hashem has been there for me. Like if you look back, you guys are younger, but when you get my age and you look back,
I'm young. Yaakov is not so young.
Yeah, I'm 60. This is all plastic surgery.
yeah.
He's almost 30s. He's not so young.
But when you see things that happen in your life and things you thought were going to destroy you and things you thought, how am I ever going to get over this? And you learn, you grow from that, you learn from it. And not only that, but most times those are things that had to happen in order to get you to the next step. And when you see that and when you feel it, so how could you not live with Amun and Bitachon? Like you wake
Well, there are
up,
people who don't,
so
right?
those
So what are they
people,
missing?
They're missing satisfaction in life. They're missing fulfillment. They're missing happiness. They're missing everything. You can't survive in life. There's so many difficulties. It's so hard to get things done. It's so hard to survive in this world and its atmosphere, and to be able to get married and have children and good children. It's only from Hashem. It's a bracha from Hashem. If you daven and you beg Hashem for something, that you see Hashem is holding your hand the whole way.
It's really beautiful.
You
So
ask people like a billionaire, like, how did you make, I don't know who you interview, but how did you make your $1 billion? And he'll think about it. At the end of the day, he had what's called a lucky break. He just happened to meet this guy, just happened to hear about this deal. Hashem is there for you.
right, no, that's really beautiful, and I love that message. So before we were talking, as we were explaining to you the types of people we have, and we said, sometimes we have a Rav on, sometimes we have, head of a company or organization, sometimes we have an influencer, and I think your wife's like, yeah, he's kind of all of those things. So I
5-tool player.
so you're a Rav, and we can get into that, but I want to like hone in on this idea that you are an influencer. I think in 2022, when you say the word influencer, someone quickly thinks of like a YouTuber or someone on social media.
Suit Central gave you the suit for free.
Exactly.
Showing it off.
But you kind of are an influencer from the publication standpoint. First of all, is that a scary thought that someone could just, not you, but I'm saying anyone could just become that idea of an influencer and put out ideas in Klal Yisrael in the world?
It is a scary thought. It's a very scary thought. It's an achrayus. It's a responsibility, and you have to take that responsibility seriously.
I mean, there's no election. Like anyone can really.
I don't look at myself like an influencer, like
But you
like
are. But
that.
every week, thousands of people are reading.
That's something
what
an
you're-
influencer would say.
Yeah.
No, I'm looking to influence people in a good way.
Right.
But I don't look at myself as an influencer. And I don't know.
There's a lot of influencers nowadays.
Yeah,
There are. And it probably wasn't that like that when you had first gotten started.
no.
Does that make what you're trying to do and the positivity that you're trying to infuse through your publication and your platform, do you find that becoming increasingly difficult because of so much noise, meaning something happens in the Jewish world, and instead of maybe back then there was one or two things, maybe a radio show, maybe one or two newspapers, but nowadays there's hundreds of platforms within the Jewish world, the frum world, that are all saying different things.
Yeah.
That I can imagine that makes things a little bit difficult.
It makes things difficult. Like you wish that people would be more discerning and they wouldn't just, anybody says anything and it's picked up somewhere and well, but he said this and he said that and she said like that and how about her? People have to be smarter. With Jews, with Amma Nifcher, we have to use our seichel.
Right.
That bothers me when you see people like not acting in a smart way and reading, being influenced by silly things that they read. Like, what are you even looking there for? And if you're looking there, why it's affecting you? So why are you looking? Why would you want to be brought down? I don't know the answer.
I think there's an influencer problem in 2022 for the Jewish world. I personally think
And the
that
world.
and the world,
Yeah.
but I think that especially it's seeped into the frum world where there are. I don't want to get canceled. I want to say this the right way, but opinions that come from social media sometimes will carry more weight than opinions that come from Batei Midrashim, and I think that's an issue.
It's an issue. You know, when my great-great-grandfather was a founder of the first frum Jewish newspaper. He was a writer. He was Rebitz Kalchanan from Kovna. He was his Gabbai. And he was always fighting and pushing that there should be frum newspapers because in that time there was Haskalah.
Right.
Haskalah was, and they had a big influence because they used the printed media. They hopped on right away and they were writing stuff and there was nothing else to read besides Torah. So people who weren't in learning, so they were reading that. They were being influenced. And the Ger Rebbe also tried to make a newspaper and he wanted a different Rebbe to go along with him and support him. And he wouldn't support him. And he said, but you need a paper, like where are people getting their information? You're getting it from the Maskilim and it's affecting people that read it. He said, I don't read a newspaper. He said, where are you getting the information? The Chassidim tell me what I have to know. He said, but where are the Chassidim getting it from? So you're being influenced by these guys. And that's what we have today. Today, you haven't seen that for a while, but now you see it. That you have these influences and people pick it up and it affects everybody's thinking.
Yeah.
It really does.
It's a scary thought.
But I think we also. I'm so scared. I don't know.
You don't have to be scared.
No, because we have even our trusted from Jewish news platforms that sometimes are a disservice with the things that we put out, and it can be very confusing, and it constantly is a cause for debate and machlokas. Well, how can you post that? That's not right. That's,
A problem that seeps in is the fact that these are businesses at the end of the day, and what's happening in the news now.
They need clicks.
Clicks. And that could, from a journalistic standpoint or just trying to understand what's going on, you see like, okay, that's just clickbait, and
especially in the frum world.
Yeah.
We try to operate with such sensitivity.
That people are smarter. Like, don't you realize it's clickbait? Don't you realize that's why it's there? It's just to get you to look at it and then you talk about it. But people go and they're always looking. They're always clicking. And
So you're saying don't click?
Don't click. I don't click.
I personally happen not to go on any news, and it's not a Jewish thing, any news, but that's just me. I'm not as into news, but and maybe growing up, but my parents were so into the news, but maybe I'm like a young
We can catch
mind.
him up with some stuff that's going on.
No, but like,
so Joe Biden's president.
yeah, no, but things like that, even like, I'm not into politics.
I don't know, actually. There's so much to tell him.
So no, okay, some people are into it, I get it, but like I just realized like I live a happier life not ensconced in like I don't need to know who's the president in order to go on with my life. And
it helps to know who the president, but you don't have to sit there by davening and looking and scrolling.
Okay, I know Trump was president, Biden is the president, and like everything else.
I think what you're hinting to is that there's sort of an information overload that we suffer from.
It's not as much information overload as detrimental information. Like, why are you looking there? What do you need it for? What a Jew is supposed to think when I'm doing something. So let's say if you're very holy, So it's to be Ma'asav Kedusha, to make your life better, holier. You get closer to Hashem. Everything we do is to get people closer to Hashem. Why do you have the show? To get people, I asked you before we started rolling, it's to get people closer to Hashem. When you're looking on that silly thing, is that getting you closer to Hashem? No.
No, certainly not.
Is it making you a better person? No. Are you learning anything from there that you need? No. So why are you looking there? What is it doing to you? It's like silly. It's
So
like,
how, I mean, like
it's like watching cartoons. It's like nonsense.
it's an issue though, because you have hundreds of thousands of people that are going and looking,
Right.
and that
It is an issue.
causes
People get addicted to it. And I look there because, and I'm not saying I'm especially from, but I only use the internet when I'm doing my work. My work is to know the news and everything, so I read. But when I don't have to put out a paper, I'm not looking. I'm not reading the news when I don't need it for my job. So I understand that people want to know news, and we should know news, and we have to be connected, and you have to know what's happening in the world in order to function in the world. But that's it. Like, that's not your entertainment. Why does it become entertainment to, let's say, to bash Rabbanim? He said this. Who's he to say? What does he know? He's 99 years old. He's been learning for the past 97 years. He doesn't have any Olam Hazeh. I'm just picking someone out of the cloth. And he said, who's he to say that I shouldn't be using WhatsApp? What does he know about WhatsApp? That whole thing, it's like you can't even try and improve people because
well, I think there's also
not everyone is like that, but that's like the stereotype. There are a lot of good people out there, and there are a lot of good people who struggle and they fight with themselves and they control what they do and where they go and what they read, and such people should be commended, and more people should learn from them. You're not a neb if you're not scrolling the whole day.
Right.
It's so true. Yeah. Whenever I meet anyone that's like, I would consider, I would assume they have a smartphone and they pull out the phone and it's a flip phone, not the flip smartphone. I'm always like, wow, that's awesome. Good for you. Or like, oh, I don't have WhatsApp.
To be honest,
I'm on texting.
I think like, what I was bringing up is not necessarily, internet in general. I think, it's 2022, internet exists. Most people have it in their homes, outside of Lakewood, and like, it's a big part of our lives and for our businesses and whatnot. I think though, more specifically in the From media, and you are one of the people that really is one of the pioneers of From media with your publication, it has become such a dark place for the most part, because we are the platforms that have such, we had mentioned traffic and the clickbait and everything. It's scary. Whenever there's a tragedy, there's pictures going around that probably none of us should have ever seen in our lifetimes.
Right.
And there are stories that are going into intricate detail that, like,
before the family even knows.
Yeah, like things that we should not be privy to. And if it almost seems like there's no journalistic guidelines. There's no like,
There are good people in From media, and there are some people who are responsible about what they post, and they should be commended. And the thing is that they should be patronized. Like when you're thinking where to go, when you're thinking where to advertise, you should advertise by someone who espouses your ideals. If you see this guy is really staying away from that type of stuff, support him. Go there. Don't go to the other guys.
Right.
Because by you going there, you're supporting him.
That could be very hard, though, for certain, at least Jewish businesses, because they, again, I don't want to call out
they
anyone.
benefit from the clickbait. They benefit from the revenue.
Right.
Yeah, or a lot of times the biggest ones.
There
That's
has to
where
be some achrayus, some
100%.
responsibility.
I think we're in like a vicious cycle.
I think that
we're in this vicious cycle. Businesses are benefiting. The platforms are benefiting. Why would they stop?
people are suffering.
Well, if you care about people,
Well, that's kind of the
then
issue.
you wouldn't be there. If there's someone that is some place does something that's really off the charts, then why are you supporting him?
Does the Yated have a digital presence?
They have a minor digital presence.
Was there like a big debate about like heading into the digital space, and like to not go there, to go full force in there? What was
If
that?
the Yated was a business in the practical sense of a business, so the Yated would be there full force. But that's not really our mission.
Your mission is to be a voice for the
Our
for
mission
the
is to
Haredi
be
world.
a voice and a newspaper that a frum person could bring into their house and not have to worry that there's going to be something there that they don't want their kids to see or they don't want to see.
Even though you're sacrificing probably thousands
It was
of dollars.
sacrificing.
Yeah, just a few thousand.
Right. So
No,
when-
hundreds of
right,
thousands of dollars.
hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars.
No,
But
millions.
yeah, but
$10
that's
trillion,
not.
yeah.
It's not here to as
To make
a
money.
profit maker, which it does, Baruch Hashem. But that's not the motive. The motive is not let's do this because it's going to make money for us.
Right. No, it's very
A lot of
commendable.
things-
If more businesses had that mindset, that would be great. 'Cause
So it depends
yeah.
on the consumer. If the consumer would demand it, then it would
Right,
do that. But
right.
I think it's an interesting topic, and if
I
this
think
is,
it's something new, and as time goes on, maybe people will realize what's happening to them and what's happening to the community and how it affects people, and maybe they would demand change.
it would be great if there's one specific thing that can come out from this episode is that we can sort of take back our media or what
It's a
we
nice tagline.
yeah like take like don't allow the cancel culture, and don't allow the that I guess dark way of marketing to seep into our
Yeah.
world. We need to say the buck stops here.
Yeah.
We can't put headlines that are just, what does that even mean? And
yeah,
I don't know.
It goes back to the root of your saying, like, why are we here? What are we doing on this earth? Okay.
If every person would think that, then they wouldn't be able to do it.
right.
But the thing is that we're now living in a different century, in a new world, and people think about all types of things. There's a lot of money out there, a lot of people spending a lot of money, things that never were done. I'm not saying go back to the way it was. I'm not one of those
Sure
kind
not,
of guys that I'll tell you that was better. That's not the conversation. The thing is that we have to think about why we're here. Why did Hashem put me here? Why am I living in this century? Why am I living in this year? What is my function in the world? And if you think that way, if you wake up in the morning and say, you thank Hashem for waking you. Why did Hashem wake me up today? So I should go on Central and go into a pizza store and eat pizza and sit on my phone? Is that what it's not because is that what Hashem wants from me?
Well,
But
to make
is
a
that
bracha
what
on
I
the pizza.
want from myself? Is that what I want from myself? That what will they say about me? That I had a good life, that I enjoyed life? There's more to life than enjoyment. There's more to life than that. Life is substance. Life is real. We're here to accomplish stuff. We're here to make a dent.
Ironically, that's
So
a
if
more
we would
enjoyable
give-
life.
Yeah, it is a more
For more
enjoyable
fulfilling
life,
type-
and
yes.
it's that message would sell much better. Message: don't look, don't. That way you're negative and you're old fashioned. Don't say don't look. Say think before you look. Like think. What does it do for me? Does it bring me down or does it pick me up?
I want to ask you some questions that are sort of, again, I look at you as someone who's in the from media space. You're responsible for content that's put out, and especially in the print world. And there are, because of that, you have a voice on issues, like that just is the reality. An issue that I think is coming up very often nowadays is the fact that there are letters that come out from Gedolim in Klal Yisrael, Rav Chaim Kanievsky perhaps, and there's certain questions surrounding it. Well, wait a minute. Did Rav Chaim actually sign this? Is that what Rav Chaim said? And there are campaigns that are started, and there are machaz that are made, and there are things that are done, and there's so many layers outside of Rav Chaim, and there's so many people who have agendas. We're not sure if what's coming out is actually MS.
So
What would you say about that issue that we're dealing with, which is, I think there
This
is a
is
lack
a
of trust.
old issue? People have always been saying that about different. I mentioned my great grandfather who was by Rabbi Yitzchak Hanan. People hated him, vilified him. They said that he twisted Rabbi Yitzchak Hanan's mind, and really Rabbi Yitzchak Hanan was a Zionist, and he was an anti-Zionist, and he didn't let Rabbi Yitzchak Hanan write letters in support of the Chayvet Tzion or whatever it was at that time. That's the way it always was, and it's not true. I believe anyway, that Reb Chaim, does he have Ruach HaKodesh, but everything that he has is what Hashem wants him to have.
My question's on him. My question's on, is it getting lost in translation from other people? It's very much in the advantage of a lot of people to say, this is what was said.
People always say that, I remember Moshe Feinstein was like, oh, it's only because this guy told him to say that. If Reb Chaim writes a letter and he signs it, then to me, it's Torah Misinai.
But how do you know what was told to Reb Chaim was the reality?
He's saying, Nachi's saying, if you see a letter, how do you know
if you see a letter from Reb Chaim Kanevsky that he signed the letter, then I accept it.
But maybe it's so easy to Photoshop.
Why would you think that what?
There was a letter last week that went out that was signed by Herschel Schachter, was signed by him, written up by him. It wasn't signed or written up by him. It was fake.
It was a fake letter.
It was complete fake.
That's not, Nachi's question is that there's a lot of, it's
so how do you know when a letter is fake?
It's so easy to fake these things.
How do you know anything? How you bought a phone? How do you know it's a real
That's
phone?
what I'm saying. There's a lot.
There was an article last week in the New York Times about, it was schnapps, bourbon, that there's a big industry in selling fake bourbon.
I feel like there's a big industry, fake everything. Everything fake is a thing.
That's a different question from saying that, how do you know that Reb Chaim knows all the facts?
My question was never what Reb Chaim knows.
So
Reb Chaim,
if you verify that Reb Chaim signed this letter, then that's what it is.
What I'm also asking is, who is saying to Reb Chaim? Like, if I say, Reb Chaim, what color is the sky? Reb Chaim says, the sky is blue. But if I go to him and say, Reb Chaim, there was a huge storm last night, and the sky right now is really, really black. What color is the sky? Oh, the sky is black. Everything is how it's portrayed and how it's painted. If I go to Reb Chaim and say, the smartphone is the downfall of humanity and creation, does Reb Chaim support that we should ban smartphones? Yeah, of course you should ban smartphones.
I'm saying that when Chaim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives G'daylim for every generation.
Saying within the sheker, he's able to...
No, it's no sheker. He doesn't need... Anyone could tell him anything. He doesn't care. He's learning, and then he chaps from Ruach HaKodesh or whatever, however he knows. He doesn't need anyone to tell him anything.
Chaim signs a letter, that's it. That's it. That's where it begins and ends.
Even if he gets misinformation, he's saying that it doesn't make a difference to him. He knows what the emes is regardless.
Rav Shach said, what is Das Torah? You know, everyone says Das Torah. What is Das Torah? So Rav Shach says,
a really good question.
If you have a person who learns Torah, that's all he does. He learns Torah. He has no negias. That means he has no agenda. He has no this way, that way. And he's learning Torah, and he's sitting and he's learning a Tosfos, and you ask him a question and he answers, it's as if Tosfos is answering that question. Reb Chaim has no negia. He has nothing. He sits there learning Shas a whole day, whatever he learns every day. So when you ask him a question, he answers. When he says, put up your brim and you'll live, you do it. You know, how do you know? Why? How does it work?
So how would you answer that? I personally don't doubt that, and I don't think Nachi doubts that. I'm not sure.
No, I don't.
Exactly. No, but like, how would you explain that to someone
just have an issue with the people
who's like not religious, and then you say we say this idea, like how could we explain that to them that Torah is everything, and everything's in there. It's the blueprint of how Hashem created this world. So obviously, if you know the blueprint, you know how this world runs. How would you explain that to someone who isn't on that level to of?
So I happens to be I wrote about this. I think it was last week or the
I feel like you wrote about everything at this point.
And if you meet a friar guy, like someone, and you see a little bug, and you say, wow, look at that little bug. Look what God created, a little bug, and it walks, and it has a brain, and it smells, and the guy looks at you and says, you're crazy, you believe in creationism? That thing, and you say to him, so how did the bug come about? Because 25 trillion years ago, there was a black hole, and then it was dust, and the dust ended up and evolved into a little bug. And you believe that? Are you crazy? Are you insane? Do you know how intricate every leaf is? Every hair Like, it's impossible to create that. It's impossible, I mean, for a human to create it, but it's impossible for these things to come into being by themselves. Yet these people walk around believing it. And if you say something to them, then you're crazy. You're backward. You're Neanderthal. So the way to do Kiev, this is what Rav Shach taught, and what Lev La'achim does, and Lev La'achim is the most successful Kiev organization there. It's a show for sure, and I don't know if anybody took surveys or studies anywhere. What they do is they learn Torah with people. If you learn Torah with people, it changes the neshama. And once a person learns Torah, you can learn Baba Kama, Shosh, and Nogach, Daled, Vehei, and then you talk about creation with a person, he'll accept it. But without Torah, you don't accept anything. Without Torah, you have Zuma, there's nothing to you. There's no Kedusha. There's a little Kedusha in every Jew's heart and in the Neshama, but you can't break through without Torah. So you want to know, how do you convince someone? You learn Torah with them. Argument, if you learn Torah with them, then they come around. Ura has and Torah Misar's partners in Torah. You learn Torah with people, and they become from learning Torah, not from arguments and not from anything like that.
Right. No, that's really beautiful.
If you could sit down with anyone from history that's no longer alive, and spend an hour with them, who would it be?
Can I ask you why I asked that question?
I think it says a lot about the guest. Some would
I
say,
think that Hashem put me in this world now because he wants me to do my mission. Every person is here with a shlichus, with a mission. We're here for a reason. I was created in the in
1993. Okay, you were born in 1993.
Yeah,
you and Yaakov were in high school together.
92.
And
So he's a little younger than you.
and the reason Hashem had me born in 1993 was because he had a specific mission for me to do.
For sure.
And all the people that I need to meet to complete my mission, HaKadosh Baruch Hu had me meet them.
So,
but if you had
let's rephrase it. It's a
you had a-
hypothetical.
Right,
had a
so
Shema-
I don't deal,
If you had a Shemayim
I don't
draft-
deal in hypotheticals.
You don't like hypotheticals.
Not at
No,
all?
I didn't say I don't like it. I didn't deal with them because Hashem gave me what I need
Okay, but we deal with
now.
So
So-
like this. I got it. But let's say
Rephrase it.
someone could give you the ability.
You're
to,
the first overall pick in the Shemaim draft. And you can
Yeah.
No,
sit down
I
with-
think it's like
Yeah,
I'll give.
but I don't think it works that way. Like,
definitely
there's so
doesn't.
many great
you
people
never know.
throughout the generations, thousands of years. Well, I would want to meet all of them.
Okay, but-
Avram,
But
Yitzchak,
I tell
Yaakov,
you,
Adam,
I
Chava.
tell you, you could decide in 10 seconds, or you get numb, but you will get someone if you could. So you could be, I don't know, you seem very close to
Could be
Rav Shach.
Moshe Feinstein.
It could be Moshe Rabbeinu.
It could be
know?
a grandfather. It could be a great.
I meet Moshe Rabbeinu every day. Every day. I open the Chumash and Moshe's there. Moshe's talking to me every day. I have a conversation with him. And with Hashem. I open the Siddur. I'm talking to Hashem every day. You open the Tehillim. There's David HaMelech. Right there, right in front of you, the Rambam. And I don't mean to sound silly, but
No,
open the
it's-
Rambam. You
I
want to
like
know,
that
beat
answer.
the Rambam. What does the Rambam have to say? You open his Sefer and you see what he has to say on any topic.
So this
It's all there.
this next question is less hypothetical, but you might not like it either.
Okay. No, I
is-
didn't say I don't like the question.
is-
I don't get the question. I don't.
Yeah, I got okay, fair. Is there one mitzvah, maybe today, because maybe it shifts, that you gravitate more towards than the others, that you feel most connected to Hashem when you do that mitzvah?
I feel connected to Hashem by every mitzvah. Before you do a mitzvah, you think about it. You make a bracha.
Fair.
If you're Hasidish, you say make a l'shem yichud. But you want to know my favorite mitzvah? Maybe Shabbos.
Yeah.
I look forward to Shabbos the whole week.
Yeah,
We hear that a lot.
yeah.
We hear that a lot. What's the best?
And,
What's
the
the
Esrog, Matzah,
Where-
like
where-
all
where?
those Sukkah, Pesach, every mitzvah. Like which mitzvah is there that not to like?
No,
Should we answer that? I'm kidding.
no. There's I think it's cool to see different. There's so many choices and different people
Isn't it?
gravitate towards. Yeah, 613.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Well, not
cool.
all 613 are in the gate to you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Well, you can learn about
you
those.
You
Well,
can
ones.
learn
true.
about them and other people, and
Amaretz.
We're waiting for someone to like say like one of the like carbonos in the Beis Hamikdash. We never got that yet.
What's the best advice you've ever received?
Oh, that's a good question.
I hope it's not a hypothetical.
No, it's not hypothetical. Best advice, I think it's from Rebellious Shvei,
Okay.
and he said, grow thick skin.
Why did he say that?
How do you
Well,
grow
I
thick
was-
skin? Also, like, shit.
In the early days of
Old Spice,
Yated,
like-
so people had complaints, this is no good, that's no good, you did this, you said that. And I once said something to him, he said, grow thick skin or you're not going to make it in life.
How'd you grow thick skin?
I worked on it.
Like you lifted weights? Like what do you do?
No.
How do you grow thick skin?
Got skin surgery and
No.
You know, there's like some sort of practice out there. I think Yaakov may have done it, where you have to be told no, rejected.
yeah,
like-
I have done it.
10 times. So like
Yeah.
you go to like, let's say this place handing out samples in a mall and say, can I have 5? And they're like, no. And the whole goal is to be said no to.
Like in
'Cause
the
I-
Vardik.
Oh yeah. But you develop, I guess, like you develop like it's okay.
Rejection.
It's okay.
Rejection,
Rejection's
failure.
okay.
It's part of
But
life.
what you also find is that you get a lot of things that
Yeah.
you maybe wouldn't have gotten. Like maybe you walked away with those 5 samples
Yeah.
of like puff pastry dough. You know, like
I walked away with someone else's yarmulke.
really? You
Yeah,
asked for it.
I said, "Can we switch yarmulke?" I literally did it.
Yeah.
Like, can we switch yarmulkes? And he's like, "Okay." And like, I got back to my D road. The guy was like, "What type of yarmulke you wearing?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "I just gave him my good yarmulke, and I got like this paper thin one." But yeah, so
So
that's not
there's
a
a
very
lot
good
of good
deal.
advice that you pick up. When you think that you know everything and you don't ask anyone and you don't accept advice, and people, if you do make a mistake and someone tells you, you don't get bent out of shape, you learn from it. So that was the first thing that came to mind. But really, any advice that you accept from people, any good advice is good advice. Like, people are like so sensitive that if you'll say something wrong and boom, like you're scared to say something, you're scared.
I'm
you'll be
so scared.
canceled.
I'm so scared. I'm
yeah,
so scared.
but
Because I'm
there's
like,
a reason to be
yeah.
scared. But if you make a mistake, Rav Shach told me in the beginning of the paper. So I was 28 years old. Like what? He said, you make a mistake, you're human. You'll learn from it.
but that's not the world we live
But
in right now.
it's not the world we live in. And today I feel as if I'm not allowed a mistake. Like if you make
Really?
a mistake, you're done.
but you listen
but-
back to Revelia, and
I listen back to Revelia, but that doesn't mean that I flaunt it.
Right,
It doesn't mean
right.
that it means
I
that,
have 8 lives, you know?
yeah, it means, but you have to learn from people. You have to be able to accept teichacha. If you can't accept teichacha, then you're not going to grow. You're not going to learn anything. You're never going to go anywhere. And if you make a mistake, so you made a mistake, but you learn from it. If you learn from it, then it's a good experience.
I
If
want
you
to
don't learn from it, if you dig in your heels, then you're done.
know the reverse of that question. What's the worst advice that you've ever received?
Worst advice. Don't listen to your wife.
Ooh,
Who told you
She's
that?
smiling.
That is the worst advice any of us have ever heard.
she's smiling in the background.
Who told you that? I don't say who, but like that is not a good advice.
Someone did tell me that.
Really?
That is terrible.
Someone told me that
Is he still alive?
this no, not alive.
His wife.
And he
Does your
said
wife have anything
this-
to do with that?
No. The sign of an idiot is if you ask him a question and he says, I have to ask my wife.
What?
Wow.
That's terrible.
He
I
was
think that's the
telling me,
worst
like,
advice we've ever heard here.
There's some truth in that. He said, like, he interviewed people for jobs, and the guy's like, okay, you have the job. And he says, I have to discuss it with my wife. Like, you should have done that before. Don't tell me you're going to discuss it with your wife. Like,
Right. Okay. But I guess in that context, he should have
It's all about
discussed it with
context,
his
but-
wife
yeah,
before.
the
Overall-
point
overall,
was,
the advice
the
gets an
point
F.
was, don't say I have to discuss it. Like, by the time you get there, you should have
Right,
discussed
right.
it. You should have been there. Don't wait till the end of the process and then bring your wife in. She should be brought in the
That
beginning.
bad advice would make a really good headline.
Yeah.
So
Don't listen to your wife.
ending off, is there any parting words that you want to say? Maybe it's
Just parting for today. Like
Are we
you should live
parting?
at May of S.
yeah. Oh, we'll speak to you and
I thought we'll be here all day. Parting
We don't have 128 pages in this podcast. It's around an hour.
156 this week.
Baruch
Ayin Hara. Parting words of advice is follow your Rabbeim, follow your parents, follow people that have been around for a while, have been through it, and know what it's all about. And as I said before, I said it twice, but I'm going to say it again. As Jews, as people, when you do something, think, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Am I going to have anything positive from it? Am I going to learn from it? Is it going to make me a better Yid, a better Jew, a better person? Is it connect me with Hashem? Or is it going to make me a worse person, take me away from Hashem, away from Torah, away from my family, away from my wife? If it's something that's detrimental to your life, don't do it. Why are you doing it?
I love it. Okay, Rabbi Lipschutz.
Don't click.
Thank you, and hopefully, none of this is clickbait. This is a real deal, and thank you for coming in.
It's a pleasure.